noticed something in the corner of the room, which is actually my daughter's room. So I screenshotted it and I just zoomed in on it. My heart just dropped. I could feel my face, all the blood in my face ran. I mean, it scared me. It just looked like somebody watching me. I didn't sleep that night.
This spine-chilling photo first appeared on social media in 2014, and since then has become rather well known.
Kicking off the list at number 10, the Tulip staircase. We'll dive right into the spooky goodness with a 1966 classic. This photo looks like the cover of a horror movie or a Kendrick Lamar album. It looks set up, right? It looks nice. The black and white hue with the ghostly figure slowly making its way up the Tulip staircase, okay. This photo is from 1966, and experts in photography all agree that this photo here has not been tampered with at all. So how scary is that? Makes you ask some questions, right? We didn't have Photoshop or deepfakes back in 1966. We barely had a camera, right? Haunting, yes, but since it looks almost too good to be true, we'll leave this at number 10. Let's move on. Number 9, power problems. This one's for sure real. Went from maybe to definitely real. This comes from a middle-aged man in Oxford, North Carolina. It was his day off work. He was looking to relax all day, just kick back and hang out in the house. Then out of nowhere, on his day off, the lights start to flicker, and immediately the smoke detector also goes off. What's happening? The lights were flickering all over the house, not just in one room. The fridge, the bathroom, any light at all, it was flickering. Even the water started to run by itself, so no, it was not an electrical issue. He filmed all these happenings, of course, but when he looked back on all the footage, after running to safety, he caught this photo of a demon peeking from the other room. Check it out. There's another peeking demon photo on this list. I don't know what it is about demons, but they like peeking out at you. Yeah, it's haunting. Stay tuned. Number 8, house guest. For this next one, we'll be taking a look at a video. I know, I said demon photos. This one's so small that it may as well be a photo. Nothing too crazy happens. Check it out. Keep an eye on the staircase next to the kitchen. Didn't see anything? Okay, what about now? This footage was taken August 8th, 2019. It's around 1 a.m. in the home of an unnamed family. Always a good sign. I've seen too many of those paranormal activity movies to watch this. This is creepy. I wouldn't even be able to watch footage of my own house with those like hidden cameras, you know what I mean? Like I'd be afraid to go through and scroll. What if I find something? Then what? The cat doesn't notice anything in this video, which is either a really good sign or a really bad sign. Because cats see everything, right? They're so mischievous. Cats will be like mid-conversation and all of a sudden just... Number 7, playtime. We know demons like to play games, I guess, so this next one here seems rather fitting. Seeing as it takes place in a Toys R Us. Yeah, you heard me. Bay Area's haunted Toys R Us. They locked its doors forever as of 2018. The aisles may be closed, but do the ghosts still haunt the building? Are there haunted toys walking around? Is there a haunted Buzz Lightyear that's gonna come out and extend its wings at me? The Sunnyvale Toys R Us demon appeared in the background of this photo. Others seen in this photo, you know, people who aren't demons, they all swear nobody else was there at the time of this photo. Nobody haunting, at least. Could this be a spirit caught in a photo that just happens to be at a Toys R Us? I mean, it's kind of funny, but like, you know, ghosts don't have to haunt scary things. They can haunt normal things too. They can haunt hotels, they can haunt old restaurants, and Toys R Us apparently. I don't know. Demons are demons. They can do what they want. Employees have talked about creepy things happening at night at this location. It's not the only time it's happened. Yeah, fun. It turns out that Sunnyvale store is indeed haunted by more than one ghost. The store stood where the Murphy farm once stood, so many think it's the spirit of Johnny Johnson. I don't know, sounds like a Ghost Rider villain. This sounds kind of like a made up story. But who knows? Ouija boards are considered toys. Can you believe that? So maybe he's just trying to get a phone. Maybe he's trying to get a new phone plan. I don't know. Number 6, Coventry Society demon. When it comes to these old-timey photos, everybody looks like a ghost no matter what, right? It's always blurry, it's black and white, there's smudges that appear all over the place. So sometimes when you see them, you want to give it a good idea. You're like, oh, maybe it's not a demon, maybe it's a nice ghost. Maybe it's someone who I know who has passed away, and this specific smudge here is them coming to visit. Sure, I'm not gonna knock that, that's a great idea, awesome. Well, it's nice to believe that photos like this from the Coventry Freeman Society shows everybody that demons might actually be real. This event has everybody dressed to the nines, but when you look at the top left over here, you see a hooded figure. Somebody that clearly doesn't belong with the vibe in this room. I don't know what kind of party this is, but this dude does not blend in. He got the wrong memo. He's like, oh, I thought you said it was like a costume kind of thing with like hoods. They're like, no, it's formal, Roger, come on. Nobody else was seen wearing a hood like this, so many believe it was a dark part of the afterlife. Just, you know, photobombing this event. Demons, always pranksters hopping in at photos, peeking around corners. Classic, they like pranks.
Number 10. SS Watertown. In December 1924, James Courtney and Michael Meehan were crew members on the SS Watertown. They were cleaning a cargo tank of the oil tanker, and they were overcome by gas fumes, which resulted in both of their deaths. Due to this, the crew buried them at sea, but to their astonishment, the ghostly faces of the soldiers appeared in the water the next day. Yeah, like in the waves. Later on, many other crew members reported seeing the faces as well. The faces were so visible that the captain of the ship ordered them to take a picture of them to have for proof, you know, so people didn't think that they were crazy. And this was smart, because if someone told me they saw faces of two dead men in the water, I would probably never talk to them again and think that they were cuckoo. Although, in the picture, you can clearly see two faces, which is just plain creepy. When the SS Watertown returned to land, the negative was even checked for fakery and proclaimed genuine. So yeah, just two faces chilling in the waves. No big deal. Number 9. The Nurse. This photo was taken in an abandoned tuberculosis hospital in Louisville, Kentucky called Waverly Hills Sanatorium in 2006. As you can imagine, many people passed away here, and it's rumored to be filled with paranormal activity. In recent years, it has become one of America's most popular destinations for ghost hunters. This image depicts a woman just standing to the right side, but when the photo was taken, no one was there. It was a ghost. It has been agreed among the paranormal community that the photo depicts Mary Lee, a nurse who took her own life in the hospital. The story goes this poor woman was impregnated by a doctor who worked in the hospital, but later wanted nothing to do with her. Nowadays, she wanders the halls of the hospital and interacts with ghost hunters. Number 8. Tulip Staircase. Reverend Ralph Hardy, a retired clergyman from White Rock, British Columbia, took this famous photograph in 1966. Originally, he only wanted to take a picture of the elegant Tulip Staircase in the Queen's House section of the National Maritime Museum in Greenwich, England. And I mean, I don't blame him. They're pretty. But upon development, the photo revealed a shrouded figure climbing the stairs. It's strange and unsettling, and Ralph said there was no one else in the frame when he took it. Experts who examined the original negative concluded that it had not been tampered with. The vicinity of the staircase is rumored to be haunted, and unexplained footsteps have often been heard there, so it's most likely something supernatural who just wanted their photo taken. Number 7. The Brown Lady. The Brown Lady of Raynham Hall is a ghost that reportedly haunts Raynham Hall in Norfolk, England. It became one of the most famous hauntings in the United Kingdom when photographers from Country Life magazine claimed to have captured its image. According to the legend, the Brown Lady is the ghost of Dorothy Walpole, the sister of Robert Walpole, generally regarded as the first Prime Minister of Great Britain. She was the second wife of Charles Townshend, second Viscount Townshend, who was notorious for his violent temper. The story goes that when Charles discovered that his wife had committed adultery with Lord Wharton, he punished her by locking her in her rooms in the family home, Raynham Hall. According to Mary Wortley Montagu, Dorothy was in fact entrapped by the Countess of Wharton. She invited Dorothy over to stay for a few days, knowing that her husband would never allow her to leave, not even to see her children. She remained at the Raynham Hall until her death in 1726 from smallpox. This is just an extremely sad story, and I can't imagine her pain. The first sighting of the Brown Lady was in 1835, and the photograph was taken in 1936. Number 6. Falling through the ceiling. Back in the 1950s, the Cooper family from Texas moved into their new house. Once there, they took a family photo, which seems normal, right? Well, not for them. When the picture was developed, the image of a body falling from the ceiling was clearly visible. To be clear, no one fell from the ceiling when they took the photo, so what happened? As further investigation on the story has brought no plausible explanation, there exist many speculations, including one that argues that the shadow is the ghost of the previous owner of the house. But my question is, why is he falling from the ceiling, and why did he have to ruin that beautiful family photo? I remember seeing this photo on the internet when I was probably too young to see it, and after all these years, this image still gives me chills. Ugh. Number 10. Royal Air Force Squadron. This photo, taken in 1919, was first published in 1975 by Sir Victor Goddard, a retired RFA officer. The photo is a group portrait of Victor's squadron, which had served in World War I at the HMS Daedalus training facility. This isn't a normal photo though, as an extra ghostly face appears in the photo. In the back of the airman positioned on the top row, fourth from the left, you can clearly see the face of another man. It's said to be the face of Freddie Jackson, an air mechanic who had accidentally died from an airplane propeller 2 days earlier. And let me just mention, his funeral had taken place on the day this photograph was taken. Members of the squadron easily recognized the face as Freddie's. I mean, it was his funeral, he just wanted to be a part of the photo. It has also been suggested that Freddie, unaware of his death, decided to show up for the group photo, which is just sad. Number 9. Combermere Abbey Library. In 1891, Cybele Corbett took a photo of the Combermere Abbey Library in Cheshire, England. Cybele was an amateur photographer who allegedly set up her camera and took this hour-long exposure while at the funeral of her brother-in-law, Lord Combermere, was taking place 4 miles from the home. When the plate was developed, the transparent image of a man sitting in one of the library chairs was noticed. Many of the staff said the image looked like the late second Viscount, and the apparition happened to be sitting in Lord Combermere's favorite chair. So, you know, it's obviously him. It's thought by some that a servant might have come into the room and sat briefly in the chair, thus creating the image, but this idea was refuted by members of Lord Combermere's household. Lord Combermere's father, the first Viscount, had been involved in a mysterious incident himself years earlier while serving as governor of Barbados, when he had the Chase vault opened and carefully examined in search of an explanation for the moving coffins there. Seems like him and his father have both had some paranormal experiences, both in life and death. Number 8. The Watcher of Corroboree Rock. The rock formation near Alice Springs, Australia, known as Corroboree Rock, is made of dolomite that was formed more than 800 million years ago, and it's considered a sacred site by the Arrernte Aboriginal people. With that much history behind it and that much importance assigned to it, it makes sense that there's someone or something that looks over it. That's why the spirit is called the Watcher of Corroboree Rock. Now, no one really knows exactly who or what it is, but one photo of it dates back to the 1950s. In either 1956 or 1959, reports vary, a minister from Adelaide snapped the photo during a visit to the rock formation, and it's been puzzling people ever since. According to the minister, Reverend R. Lance, there was no one around when the photograph was taken, however, but when he developed it, the ghostly figure now seen in the image appeared. It's kinda nice to know that there's something taking care and watching over that area, no? Number 7. Leeds General Infirmary. Now, why wouldn't there be a creepy ghost photo taken in a hospital? With many patients' lives ending and beginning there, those places are full of spirits. Now, this photo isn't an extremely well-known ghost photo, but it's still creepy nonetheless. This photo was taken at Leeds General Infirmary by Andrew Milburn. The photo shows what appears to be a ghost nurse or patient fleeing into a room in a hospital corridor. Andrew took the photo to show his girlfriend where he was in the hospital and did not mean to capture a ghost. He didn't know this ghost was in the photo until he reviewed it more closely. Andrew had always been skeptical about ghosts, but seeing this figure changed his mind, and honestly, that would change my mind too. Number 6. Whaley House. Known worldwide as the most haunted house in America, the Whaley House is recognized for its historical significance in Old Town San Diego. They do haunted tours on the property, and this family went on a tour and got their photo taken. In the photo, you can see the brown outline of someone or something in between the two adults. Now, there are multiple people this could be. One of the most infamous ghosts in San Diego is the spirit of Yankee Jim Robinson. Yankee Jim was hanged in the house in 1852 after being convicted of stealing horses. Thomas Whaley himself, who owned and lived in the house with his family years later, had said they could hear heavy footsteps going up and down the stairs. Visitors have reported cold spots and the feeling of their chest and throat tightening while in the home. Others claim to have seen Yankee Jim too, an apparition that appears and disappears when you get close. This ghost in the photo could also be Thomas Whaley himself. Today, and for many years, visitors of the house have reported seeing Thomas. One guest waved to a man she said she saw standing in the parlor. No one else could see the man, but when asked what he looked like, she described a man wearing period clothing that resembled Thomas. Adults too have seen him wearing a frock coat and pantaloons standing on the second-story landing, and others have seen his wife, Anna, usually floating about in the garden or in the downstairs room. Her ghost ghost, which appears white and billowy, seems to just drift about and then disappears. So with so much ghost activity in that house, I am sure it's one of those spirits.
Kicking off the list at number 10, William Thomas Stead. Born in 1849, William Thomas Stead was the son of Congregationalist minister, and at the age of 22, he was appointed as editor of the Northern Echo, a regional newspaper in Darlington. This British medium, Richard Borsonov, featured a photo of W.T. Stead and a spirit. Or a demon. One of the two, both pretty terrifying. While William was investigating a spiritual case, he took this photo with what's supposed to be the spirit of Pete Botha. Now, the reason many believe that maybe the spirit is evil is that Stead later on died in the Titanic. He boarded the ship to take part in a peace congress at Carnegie Hall, and survivors mentioned William Thomas Stead a few times. Apparently at dinner, he was chatting his way throughout the entire 11-course meal, recounting exciting, spooky times in his life, even mentioning a cursed mummy that he encountered at the British Museum once. That's a little odd for table talk. He even gave his life jacket to another passenger that night too. Stead would often claim that he would one day pass due to hanging or to drowning. And right before he was to be awarded with the Nobel Peace Prize, he passed away due to the latter. Was he cursed? I believe so, to be honest with you. What do you guys think? Number 9, the demonic boy photograph. It doesn't matter where or when, but odds are you've probably seen this photo at some point. All those late nights when you're scrolling through Reddit, you've probably seen this at some point. I know I have, and every time I see it, I'm kind of like, it looks pretty real. It's pretty haunting. You know when you see a photo, sometimes you get bad vibes, like it registers in your brain as something scary and real. Like you want to find something that looks fake about the photo, but it's tough. This photo was taken inside the Amityville house in 1976. It appears to be a young boy or ghost, spirit, demon, whatever, with glowing white eyes. It was taken with automatic cameras equipped with infrared. And it makes it even creepier that the boy looks like he's peeking around the corner. Like he knew something was coming almost, he didn't want to get caught. That's the creepiest part here. A photographer named Gene Campbell took it, and Gene was working with paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren at the time. Yeah, the famous duo now rocking the big screen Conjuring universe. This was a real thing. They were on this case in real life. This photo was revealed 3 years after it was taken, and it was revealed on the Merv Griffin show. Imagine seeing this on a show, like Jimmy Kimmel whips this out. It's like, hey, we're gonna play Plinko. Check out this demon. Many believe this is the ghost of John DeFeo, one of the boys who lived there prior during the 1974 event. Now we're still trying to cover this one, but what do you guys think? Is this an elaborate hoax? Is this a young boy? Or is this one of the many demons that was said to haunt the house? Sound off down below. Number 8, the SS Watertown. This picture here perhaps is one of the creepiest on this list. I'm not sure what to think of this one. It comes from 1924 and it shows what appears to be two older men, or two older figures almost. I don't know, it's water, it's hard to tell. Some believe it's James Courtney and Michael Meehan in the water. Now the two had previously died and were buried at sea, hence that's why their first thought was them as to who it was. Other crew members saw these strange faces in the water as well, so when they turned back to get another look, 5 out of the 6 photos showed nothing. This was the only photo that showed what they saw. Are these the two lost crewmen, or is the vessel haunted by sinister forces? Number 7, backseat driver. This photo is from 1959. Okay, it was taken by a lady named Mabel Chinnery. And the photo at first glance is just a classic 60s shot of a man in a car. That man was Mabel's husband. Now the man in the back seat, however, that back left seat, we have no idea who that was. Her husband apparently was the only guy in the car at the time. And also, that's a pretty tough angle. If you wanted to recreate this photo with your friends after work, like try this. This is a really hard shot, even with phones now. It would be hard back in the day. It's like he's appearing to us through the seat almost with that angle. So either this is a lie, which happens often, people can lie, and a man was sitting in the back left seat, or like Mabel thinks, maybe this is her dead mother-in-law. Now, if she had said father-in-law, I think maybe it was his spirit, but this for sure looks like an older gentleman with a collar or something. Kind of looks like, dare I say it, the devil. I don't know, I read a lot of comic books. Number 6, Coventry Society demon. You may be thinking, some of these may not be demons, Taylor, maybe they're just nice spirits who stuck around after they passed. Yeah, while it's nice to believe that, photos like this convince me otherwise. This is from the Coventry Freeman Society, and it shows everybody at this event dressed to the nines. But when you look at the top left corner over here, you see a hooded figure. Somebody that clearly doesn't belong with the vibe in this room at this event. Nobody else was seen also at any point at that night wearing a hood like this, so of course many believe it was a dark part of the afterlife photobombing this event. Honestly, I totally believe that. This is a weird one. The hood, maybe I've been watching Harry Potter lately, I don't know. Maybe it's a Dementor, we actually don't know. Kicking off the list at number 10, Midnight Snack. This one was pretty recent. It was from December 2020. It was uploaded to the wonderful world of Reddit by a user named Oopsie Poopy Man, which is a great name. I would have taken that as well. The photo, at first, I didn't see anything. I had to turn my brightness up, so I suggest that you do the same. But in the meantime, I'll read to you the caption for this photo. They say, after hearing taps and noises from my kitchen, I take a photo and I see this. That's pretty scary. Maybe it's the Jabberwockies and they're gonna do a flash mob in your kitchen. That's what it appears to be. Or maybe, as the several other thousand people have commented, you should leave the house right away. That's terrifying. Also, the taps and stuff, being in Canada, I would assume that's raccoons, but that's much more scary than raccoons. Actually, it's pretty close. 5 raccoons versus 1 demon. I'm like, it's a lot of hands, a lot of grabbing. Is this a real ghost photo or is this a hoax? I zoomed in on the photo once and honestly, that was enough for me. You can go check it out yourself if you want. I'm done with this one. Number 9, photobomb. We have to include the work of William Hope in a list of spirit photography. He was the paranormal pioneer. In 1920, he took a photo of a couple and in the background, this one's also a little tricky to see, but if you zoom in, you can see a really tall woman floating in between the two. Yeah, this one's really out there, so I'm not really sure I'm buying it, but also there's something to it that gives me the creeps still. It's like she's missing her head almost, like the silhouette doesn't have a head, but you can clearly see her face in the middle of the body, like near the chest. It's intriguing either way, but one way or another, it's not easy to tamper with photos. Today, you can easily fake this photo of a demon or a monster or whatever, but back in the 1920s, I don't know, could you do this? Get out of town. Cameras back then were like fire hazards. I'm not buying it. That's for sure a demon. Number 8, the Brown Lady of Raynham Hall. This one is a classic. If you haven't seen this photo, it's gonna live rent-free in your head, that's for sure, from here on out. This tale kicked off back in 1936 after a photo went around Country Life magazine. The photo shows the spirit wearing a brown gown, hence where her name comes from. Not the most creative of nicknames. They're just like, that's what it looks like. That's what we'll call it. Okay, demonology. Just the thing you want to see when you come home. Just a ghost floating on your staircase after a long night. We love it. Legend has it the ghost is that of Dorothy Townshend. She was the sister of Robert Walpole, who was the first Prime Minister of Britain back in 1676. A little bit of history there. Some reports say that the image is a result of long exposure gone wrong, but either way, I don't like looking at this photo. Let's move on again. Number 7, the Shining Hotel Spirit. It appears to be a spirit or a demon, ghost, apparition, something black-haired and scary looking, I don't know, just floating through the hallways. Why do I get the scary videos, man? I can't go through this and zoom in. Like my heart, I can't take these. I can't, why are we doing this? If there's a part 3, I'm quitting. The room was of course empty at the time the photo was taken, and I believe that, because there's no way you can just snap a random photo of just a random child. I don't know, you're gonna probably go to jail if you try that. Don't do that. And then if you try and say, oh, I was looking for a ghost, that's not a good excuse. You're gonna get kicked out for sure. You gotta go where no one else is. That's the whole point of getting a ghost photo. When confronted about the photo, Nosling ensured that he doesn't even know how to use his cell phone, let alone Photoshop. That I kind of believe. What do you guys think? This one's a little convincing, dare I say. Number 6, floating hand. This one is so scary. Okay, another photo from over 100 years ago. This time, the photographer may or may not have caught a floating demon hand. Yeah, that's where we're at now. Part 2, we love it. I'll show you the photo. You let me know if you see anything at first. Here we go. Okay, take a good look. Anything just sticking out, poking out, anything weird? This photo is a group of women who worked in a linen factory, and the lady on the far right has an extra hand. This one's resting on her shoulder. This may be a hidden person. Maybe somebody with long arms was out of frame. I'm a lanky dude, I get it. I can put my arms around like 9 of my closest friends. Look at this, I'm out of frame for both these hands. That's nuts. But it's the positioning of the hand that gives me the chills. It looks curled almost, which gives me like a demonic, insidious, the last key vibes. I don't like it. Let's move on.
We're starting off with a very harrowing image right off the bat. A red-eyed demon lady staring into a dude's car. Just take a look at this nightmare fuel. The creepiest thing about this video is that the woman just does not move an inch. She just stares wide-eyed into the car, completely frozen the whole time. I don't know. This one just kind of got under my skin a little bit. At one point, I actually started like averting my eyes from the screen just to avoid her glare. I also didn't know if there's gonna be some kind of a pop-up scare of some kind. Her face is hard to read. She's kind of doing this blank, dead-eyed, like 1,000-yard stare, and because you can't make out any emotion on her face, just makes the whole thing even more unsettling. Of course, it could totally be a hoax, but I do find this one pretty effectively freaky. The red, unblinking eyes, the fact that she looks like she's covered in mud, it's just very strange. If anyone knows more about this video, please let me know down in the comments.
Next up, we have an image of an institutionalized woman taken in the 1900s, committed in France at a time when mental health was incredibly misunderstood and people suffering from epilepsy were often seen as being possessed by the devil. It's unclear what the woman in the photo suffered from or why she was imprisoned in the French institution in which the photo was taken, but what is clear is the fact that when the photo was taken, she had been forcibly restrained at the feet, by the wrists, and around the waist, a common practice for those suffering from delusions or fits at the time. For me personally, what stands out most about this photo, taken at a time in which demons were to blame for the majority of mental ailments, is that her body is positioned in the image of a cross. Whether or not this was directly intentional is unknown, but spooky nonetheless, not to mention super unethical.
Next on the list, we have this video of a goat walking on its hind legs. This video has been reposted like so many times, so I'm not exactly sure who the original uploader is. I think it's Youngstar TV. Anyway, the short clip shows a goat walking on its hind legs into a barn, being followed close behind by a chicken. Some people find this clip kind of funny. The folks behind the camera are chuckling. I'd definitely be entertained if I were, visiting that farm, but if I were the farmer, I'd probably be keeping my eye on that goat from that point on. I'd probably laugh at first, but that laugh would probably disintegrate into an uncomfortable chuckle as soon as I realized that Baphomet was living right outside where I slept. And who the hell knows what it's thinking and planning? A chicken was following close behind him. Was this goat gathering farm animals together to stage a coup? Start leading a chicken army to take over the farm? Animals walking around like humans without being instructed to just gives me the creeps. Like, when you see videos of like dogs just walking on their hind legs, it's not right. It doesn't look right. It's like, no, stop that, please.
Next up, human dolls. It really doesn't get much more demonic than this. These lifelike dolls were created by a man named Anatoly Moskvin, a former Russian journalist who, let's face it, was absolutely bat crazy. Oh, and when I say these dolls were lifelike, I mean it. Why? Well, because they were made of human flesh. Anyways, Moskvin was also a self-proclaimed grave expert, and he spent many years digging up the bodies of young women to use for his sick art projects. Each doll he made was carefully kept inside his home. He thought of them as both companions and lovers, and even admitted to engaging in physical contact with the creations in his writings. For many years, Moskvin and his deranged projects flew under the radar, but he was eventually caught in 2011 after police grew suspicious of the rising number of desecrated graves in the area. When officials searched the home of Moskvin, they found 26 life-size dolls, which were basically just mummified corpses laid out around the man's home like they were living there. I guess you could argue that what he did isn't technically demonic, but it's for sure demented.
This next video is taken in Mexico at a church. The priest was in the middle of leading a sermon when suddenly you hear this loud, distressed scream coming from somewhere. Take a listen.
El Señor esté con ustedes y con tu espíritu.
Now, it's hard to make out what the voice is saying, especially because I don't speak Spanish. Some people have said it sounds like a woman screaming, "Please help." Now, there's not a ton of info behind this clip, but apparently the priest immediately stopped the sermon after that. Even in the short clip, you see him step down from the podium as his voice kind of like trails off. He seems pretty unsettled. And I mean, fair enough. Ghostly screams echoing through a church is probably gonna throw off your rhythm just a little bit.
Next up, we have a photograph taken during the Exorcism of Anneliese Mitchell. In the late 1960s, the young woman began to exhibit increasingly alarming behaviors, causing both her and her parents to believe that she had been possessed by the devil. After a while of watching Anneliese routinely convulse, hallucinate, eat spiders, and consume her own own urine, they decided it was time to call in the big guns. Exorcists. But unfortunately for Anneliese and her family, the first exorcism didn't take, or the second, or the third. In total, Anneliese Mitchell underwent 67 exorcisms throughout her life, none of which seemed to do the young woman any good. She died of malnutrition in 1976, or at least that's what they say she died of. She was 23 years old and just 68 pounds. The last image taken of the woman alive is a true testament to the torment she endured throughout her life. And not only that, but the events of the poor woman's life actually are what inspired the 2005 horror film, The Exorcism of Emily Rose.
This is not the face you want to see in an alleyway in the middle of the night. It looks like Reagan from The Exorcist. I'd be running away crying too if I saw that. Though this guy did stick around for a while. He just kind of stared with the camera at this demonic thing as it was just kind of, yeah, freaky. I don't know where this video is from. I don't know the backstory. It sounds like the guy is speaking Arabic. Some commenters have said that this demon thing could be a jinn. Whatever it is, it's creepy as hell. Of course, it could be a hoax, but whatever. Like a mysterious video with some nightmarish imagery always works for me.
Next up, nuclear shadows. After the 1945 bombing of Hiroshima on August 6th by the United States, not much was left in the areas in which the blast went off. Somewhere around 80,000 people lost their lives due to the explosion, which went off about 1,900 feet above the city's center. When the nuclear weapon, often referred to as Little Boy, detonated, it caused the surrounding area to reach temperatures of up to 10,000 degrees Fahrenheit, which completely obliterated anything within 1,600 feet of the blast zone. Not only that, but the extreme heat caused bleaching to occur on the city's exposed surfaces like buildings, roads, sidewalks, staircases, you name it. However, in places where people stood during the blast, bleaching did not occur. Bodies would protect the surface from the heat flash as they themselves were incinerated in mere moments. To look at these images now is pretty disturbing.
Next up, we have a sleep paralysis demon. This clip was shared to TikTok by Nightmare Fuel with the description reading, "If you suffer from sleep paralysis, please do not watch." Well, too late for me. I watched it. In the video, we see a man sleeping in bed. A thermal imaging camera has been set up. The man lays motionless in bed without any context. We think he was just sound asleep, but that's not exactly the case. Turns out he was experiencing a round of sleep paralysis, but the chilling part comes in when we see something being picked up on the thermal imaging camera that we can't see on the normal camera. It looks like some sort of entity climbing onto the bed and crouching on the man's chest, which is the exact feeling people would describe having when experiencing sleep paralysis. Sometimes people will say they even see some sort of entity as well. Sleep paralysis, ain't it a barrel of laughs? I've had sleep paralysis a number of times, more so when I was younger, but every once in a while it still shows up for an impromptu visit at 3 a.m. Next time it happens, I'll be thinking of this video. So, thanks for that.
And finally, we have the rather haunting or demonic, perhaps, message left behind by William Hirons on December 10th of 1945, moments before he brutally took the life of Frances Brown. The message, written on the wall in Brown's home and in her own red lipstick, read, "For heaven's sake, catch me before I kill again. I cannot control myself," thus giving Hirons the name the Lipstick Killer. After writing the message, Hirons impaled Brown with a large blade and then wrapped her head in towels before fleeing the scene. Prior to killing Brown, Hirons had actually taken the life of another woman named Josephine Ross in a similar fashion. She had been impaled before having her skirt wrapped around her head. But in the case of Ross, her wounds had been taped shut. The last woman Hirons killed was Suzanne Degnan. She was taken from her bedroom, and 12 hours later her head was found floating in a sewer near her family home. Hirons was finally arrested after an attempted B&E, and while in interrogation he admitted to being the Lipstick Killer and was sentenced to life in prison. However, many discrepancies make his incarceration quite controversial, but I will save that for another video.
Number 5, The Spectre of Newby Church. This one comes from 1963, so it's a little more recent, but even so, this is one of the most convincing ones on this list. In my humble opinion, I haven't seen any ghosts or anything. Reverend K.F. Lord took this photo in Newby Church in England, and Lord ensures us that this this photo is 100% real. He didn't tamper it. Anyone named Lord doesn't lie about things. That's just facts. I mean, to be fair, it looks like the spirit is facing the camera, like it's a pretty good frame. It looks definitely fake. The whole Plague Doctor vibe is going on though. That's what makes me feel sick in this whole situation. Anything with Plague Doctors has always given me the creeps. I don't like it. I worked at an amusement park and their Halloween haunt month thing, and I was assigned as a Plague Doctor, and I couldn't even look in the mirror. Also, for sure, I wouldn't have just faced a photo of someone's taken. I would have done like a creepy move. This is too normal. I don't know. But the fact that it's normal makes it kind of believable. The figure seems to be standing on the first step to the altar, yet somehow is still taller than the altar itself. We think by this photo it's about 9 feet tall. Whoever faked this, if that is the case, must have been on stilts. Also, stilts and a sheet over your face on a staircase, that's just impressive either way, honestly. Number 4, the background demon. Another piece of work from William Hope, this one even creepier than the last. The face of this demonic woman appears to be floating above the lady on the right of this photo. Again, these are from the 1920s, and the only hint as to who or what was in these photographs was written on the back. Yeah, something's written on the back of this photo, that's how you know it's real. The message reads, "Why is the child always pushing to the front?" which is a very creepy question. And the message below it also reads, "Do we get messages from the higher spirits?" Okay, 2 creepy questions written on the back of a creepy 1920s photo. Is this what you wanted? Because I didn't want to see this, but now I had to, and it's gonna be here, and now you'll be fine. You're gonna keep scrolling through YouTube. I'm gonna go to bed over there and be afraid. Hit that thumbs up. I don't know, maybe I'll be able to sleep. It'll definitely help. Number 3, nursing home spirit. Okay, we're in the final 3, so it's time to get real. This photo was taken from a nursing home resident the same night another resident had passed away. This was back in 2015, and that night they heard a door open and close, but at this hour there were no visitors there at the time. For sure, no one was there. There were logins, all that jazz. No one could just waltz in, or walk in for that matter. So there's also a great amount of people who think that this image here is one of 2 things. The spirit of the resident that passed away, or the Grim Reaper. Yeah, the door opening and closing, people think that was the Grim Reaper coming in. How scary is that? A few comments were saying how it's comforting to know that in the end you aren't alone. Yeah, you know, I'm not gonna lie, I'd rather die alone than have this dude break into my home at 4 a.m. and then just walk me to the living room where I'm gonna die. I don't know. I'm all set. Number 2, window spirit. Personal trainer Tony Ferguson was filming a castle in England, as most personal trainers do, but when the 33-year-old looked back on that footage, he thought that he'd missed out on a prank. He couldn't believe what he was looking at. Check it out. This was at Hurst Castle in Hampshire. He also recalls that nobody could have been moving around in that space. It was very petite. This wasn't the first time the spirit also had made its presence known though. The time before, Tony Ferguson said that it was this white mist, but this time it actually had energy to form. Yeah, whenever something has energy to form, that's how you know you're messing with some real I was asking it to show itself, and this white mist flew straight at my camera. I mean, this time around, he got footage of the actual thing moving around. So whenever it's happening, it's getting more friendly or it's getting more comfortable. Either way, I'm never going to this castle, and neither should you. What are your thoughts? Is this convincing or is this fake? And last but not least, number 1, the house guest. Okay, I saved the best for last, and by that I mean this is the scariest video I've ever seen. Let's do it. This comes from a middle-aged man in Oxford, North Carolina. It was his only day off work. He was looking forward to just kicking back and relaxing, but instead, the lights started to flicker in his house, and immediately after, the smoke detector started going off. The fridge, the bathroom, all these lights were going off, you name it. The water even started to run by itself. He filmed the footage, you know, while he was fleeing his home on his only day off, and while he was looking back on the footage later on, he saw this. Pretty terrifying, right? I know, I had to look at it and now it's gonna be stuck in your head. Number 5, the ghost pilot. Oh, this one gives me the creeps. I'm hoping it's just a friendly ghost. I included it because it's kind of nice, but you never really know, honestly. This one, I did some research, it's creepy. Any sort of spirit I don't welcome. Yeah, I don't gamble on the afterlife. I'm actually all set. The ghost pilot is a photograph that shows a spirit from 1987. A woman named Mrs. Sayer was visiting an airfield in England, so of course, she did the classic tourist thing and got a photo in the cockpit. We all do it at some point, but do you ever think of who may have died in that exact spot before? After the age of 10 years old, I was like, you know what, I understand ghosts, I'm not gonna sit in that tank. I'm good, thanks. People swear the Titanic was a cursed ship and that spirits were responsible for the ship's bad luck. Now, next time you wanna sit in the pilot's seat, look around for spirits, because this image was developed and it appears that somebody or something was in the helicopter with Miss Sayer the whole time. Number 4, the Paris Demon. Originally, the tunnels under Paris were built for stone mines, but near the end of the 18th century, it turned into something haunting. Cemeteries were starting to fill up, and I mean that in a literal sense, and humans didn't figure out how to be clean, so bodies would just be laying on the sides of the roads. They started to pile up over time, so the solution was to use these catacombs. They were no longer needed for those mines anymore, so might as well use them as a mass graveyard. And now we have the scariest basement in the world. We have walls of skulls that on one hand, it's cool as hell, it's natural history, it's gothic yet beautiful, but when Google Maps tried to give a user an up-close look, it seemed to have caught a shadowy demon figure. With more than 6 million souls laying down there, it doesn't shock me to hear about something like this at all. There's a video of the street view, and in it you can see this figure. Check it out yourself. Number 3, demons are us. For this next one, we'll be going down the Lego aisle. Yeah, how fun. Haunted Toys R Us. Can you imagine all those toys starting up at night by themselves? Bay Area's Haunted Toys R Us is no longer a thing. Thankfully, as of 2018, that location closed down, but its tales, they live on forever. The Sunnyvale Toys R Us demonic presence appeared in the background of this photo. But of course, like others on this list, the people present at the time of the photo swear that nobody else was there. It's like everyone has bad memory, or everyone has good memory. I can't really tell right now. It's like, could this be a spirit or a demon caught on tape that just happens to be at a Toys R Us? I vote yes. Employees talked about creepy things happening there at night all the time, and the Sunnyvale store is indeed haunted by more than one ghost. That's what people say. The store stood where the Murphy farm once stood, so many think the spirit is the ghost of Johnny Johnson. I don't know, the fact that Ouija boards are a toy that is commonly used to, I don't know, communicate with spirits, maybe closing these doors was the best call. I don't think we welcomed in any good spirits. I don't think any spirits are clocking in for work, you know what I mean? And now it's closed, so I'm like, it didn't work. Whatever we tried, didn't work. Number 2, ghost boots. These boots are made for haunting, and that's just what they'll do. Yeah, I put a pair of boots on this list. That's where we're at now. This photo of a young girl may look like a classic family trip, but upon closer inspection, it seems like somebody or something is standing behind her. Now, of course, her father said that nobody was behind her at the time that it was taken, and I agree that, and like honestly, and I believe him. Honestly, that would be pretty weird if he was like, hey, can you stand right here? Yeah, you behind my daughter, don't move, but you stand right here in this open field, thanks. Ka-ching. I don't believe it, I don't buy it, it's weird. This shot was taken at Zushi Zenagawa, Japan, and you can see boots and what looks like clothing sticking out from behind the child's elbow. The kid's father said, I took a few photos, and when I was looking through them at night, I noticed the boots behind her. I took several photos in the same spot, but only one of them had boots. You always see that in movies, right? At night they're going through and they see like it's 2 a.m. It's never at a Walmart while it's being developed. They don't find these photos in a bright, busy area. It's always in like a dark kitchen. Ugh, it's creepy. So he freaked out and then put it on Reddit, and then now we're here. Full circle. And finally, coming in at number 1, cave drawings. I know these aren't photos, but come on, there's nothing more eerie than humanity's origin, right? Let's do it. Let's go back. Let's turn the clocks back. And for archaeologists from around the world, this cave system in France doubles as the world's oldest art gallery. These Paleolithic paintings are a haunting to look at. They were created from humans about 20,000 years ago, and it's now considered a heritage site. There's many of these caves around the world. So if you're thinking about sneaking down there in the Lascaux caves and taking a look yourself, well, you better think again. The cave was opened originally in 1948, but due to carbon dioxide levels from visitors, it was closed in 1963. Learning about our history is challenging, and when it's slowly fading away, that surely doesn't help. Just gotta hold your breath while you read. This is crazy. I'm currently reading a book called Supernatural by Graham Hancock, and in it he tries to dig through history to find the origins of spirituality, and markings in caves like these ones from ages ago definitely help. They resemble these demon-looking creatures almost, and this is long before religion. These drawings were supposedly from hallucinations, but many believe it's one of the first accounts of a demon interacting with a human. It's just drawn on a cave wall. Pec Merle is a cave in France that also has these strange drawings, and some say they resemble aliens, others of course voting demons. What do you guys think? This is from 25,000 years ago. Write all your thoughts and concerns down in the comments.
Number 5. Tantallon Castle. Tantallon Castle dates back to the 14th century, stands on a remote headland near North Berwick, and was badly damaged in an attack by Oliver Cromwell's forces in 1651. A photo taken there shows a ghostly figure. The photo, taken by Christopher Anachin in 2009, still remains an unsolved mystery. It's a photo of a man in what appears to be 16th century clothes. It's known that no mannequins or costume guides are used within the castle, and experts have confirmed through analysis that there is no digital alterations at play. Even skeptics have been left baffled by the image after tests confirmed no technological trickery is at play. Psychologist Professor Richard Wiseman from the University of Hertfordshire, who studied the picture, said the figure appears to be in a period costume, but we know 100% that the Tantallon Castle is not the sort of place that has mannequins or costume guides. Seems like an old spirit just just wanted to take a look outside. Number 4. Nottingham Galleries of Justice. One of the best ghostly sightings caught on film is this spooky black figure photographed by Simon Brown, who is a qualified parapsychologist. He was spending the day at the old Galleries of Justice with his brother and was simply taking photographs of the building. Although Simon says he didn't notice anything while taking the images, when he downloaded them onto his computer, he noticed what appeared to be a black figure shadow that seemed to have walked through a brick wall. Staff at the galleries have corroborated Simon's story, saying that they too have seen similar figures and have experienced similar paranormal encounters, but have not yet been able to capture anything on film. They've seen ghostly apparitions, dealt with poltergeist activity, and had doors slam on their own. Simon also mentioned when discussing the figure that it appeared to be in turn-of-the-century prisoner dress, dragging a leg behind him as though he was in chains. All I can say is creepy. Number 3. New home. Buying a new house is a fun and exciting time. But what if you bought a house that you didn't know was haunted? Seems like that's what happened to Michelle midwinter. Michelle had bought a new house in England and she took a photo of it to send to her friends and family. She'd gone outside, snapped a photo, and returned to the inside of the house when she noticed a face staring back at her in the bottom right window of the house. I'm sorry, when you zoom in, you can clearly see a nose, eyes, and shoulders, and the face of a man staring back at you. Now, Michelle didn't pack up her bags and leave right away, which I'll never understand. Instead, she posted the image online and was eventually contacted by a historian local in her area who believed that the apparition in the image could have been a man known as Old Man Kent, who was thought to be a suspect in a death back in 1860. Initially, Michelle dismissed the image as nothing more than reflections and refractions of light from the flowers outside her window, but following further paranormal sightings and activity within the house, such as cold spots and lights flickering, it seems like Michelle is now a believer. I can't believe having to live in a house like that. Number 2. Bedroom ghost. In 2005, a teenage girl had just gotten her first digital camera. She was messing around, experimenting with the features, and taking photos of her friend Tommy. The two photos were taken seconds apart. The first was taken with flash and the second was taken without. When taking the photo, the photographer and her friend were the only people in the room at the time, but there's clearly another person in the photo on the right. It looks like an older person wearing glasses, and I mean there's clearly someone there. The girl said that unusual things were always happening in our family's house as there were noises and things moved. Maybe it was the spirit who was doing all this and decided to reveal themselves. If I took a photo of a ghost in my bedroom though, I would never sleep there again. And coming in at number 1 is the ghost in the water. In 2014, Kim Davidson was swimming in a lake with a friend and their combined 3 children. They went to Murphy's Hole in Lochar River in Queensland, Australia. While there, they took a photograph. Normal, right? But when the photograph came out, there was a ghostly figure of a girl behind the group who looked like she'd been leering behind the family. They said that there was nothing in between them when the photo was taken, and on close examining the image, they realized it was a white face with dark eyes and 2 horns on either side of the head. Its fingers are on Kim's shoulder and on the small girl's right arm. Kim posted it on Facebook, and upon seeing the image, many comments were made, some saying that the 2 horns looked like 2 ponytails or buns. A fellow user shared the story of Doreen O'Sullivan, a girl who accidentally drowned in the same creek in the same spot in 1913. Her obituary was found in the Brisbane Courier, dated the 22nd of November 1913. The notice reads that Doreen O'Sullivan, aged 13 years, the oldest daughter of Mr. James O'Sullivan, was accidentally drowned whilst bathing in the Lockyer Creek on Friday afternoon. Nearly an hour elapsed before the body was recovered. Now, the spot, which has always been considered dangerous, is known as Murphy's Hole and is over 20 feet deep. Upon reading this, Kim recollected that they had experienced strange things that day while they were swimming in water. She felt someone's presence behind her, but she ignored it. Twice, someone in the water even grabbed her elder daughter's leg. This made Kim believe in the presence of a spirit in the water. By looking at the picture, she was convinced that the unknown face was that of Doreen. Kim got 2 paranormal experts to check out the photo, and after investigating the photograph carefully, they concluded that the shape of the image was that of a child. Number 5. Backseat ghost. On March 22nd, 1959, Mabel Chinnery and her husband drove to the graveyard in which her mother had been buried. Her mother had died a week previously, and they were going to take photos of her grave, and they did. As Mabel returned to the car, she decided to use her last remaining shot to take a candid picture of her husband waiting in the vehicle on the passenger side. Nothing was out of the ordinary, it was just a random photo, but when the pictures were developed, one of Mabel's friends pointed out that someone, believed to be her mother, mother appeared to be behind her husband in the back seat of the car. Now, was the figure her mother or some other spirit? Who knows? I mean, they were in a graveyard, it could have been anyone or anything. The photograph itself wasn't seen in the United States until the story got a whole page in the Sunday newspaper. Mabel stated that the spot where the unexpected figure appeared in the back of the car is where her mother always sat when they went for drives, so it makes sense that it could be her. An unnamed photo expert is quoted as saying, "The lady in the back can't be the result of a double exposure. If it were, the door's upright wouldn't block off part of her face, and she can't be a reflection in the window either." So maybe it really is Mabel's mother. Number 4. Wem Ghost. On November 19th, 1995, Wem Town Hall burned to the ground in Wem, Shropshire, located in England. During the fire, Tony O'Rahilly, a sewage farm worker who was also an amateur photographer, was originally stopped by police from approaching the burning building. He took a picture of the blaze from across the street with a 200mm lens. It appeared to depict the image of a young girl in the doorway of the burning building. Now, to be clear, there were no injuries or fatalities from the fire. This was not a human. Locals who saw the photo believed it was the ghost of Jane Churm, a young girl who was accused in 1677 of starting a fire in the same town. The image of the girl in the doorway of the burning building was not noticed by Tony, the photographer, or the onlookers. It only appeared after the photo had been developed. I mean, if she was accused of starting a fire and then she popped back up in an area where another fire started, it seems like it really could be Jane. Number 3. The Spectre of Newby Church. The Spectre of Newby Church is the name given to a figure in the photograph taken in the Church of Christ the Consoler on the grounds of Newby Hall in North Yorkshire, United Kingdom. The image was taken in 1963 by the Reverend Kenneth F. Lord. As the figure appears to resemble a human, much speculation has been had regarding what type of person might be in the image. Most speculation by believers has concluded that it resembles a 16th century monk with a white shroud over his face, possibly to mask leprosy or another disfigurement. Others believe it looks like a plague doctor from the 16th and 17th centuries. Initial claims suggest that the figure would measure at 9 feet tall, but its feet are not visible, so it could easily be standing on a box, giving the impression of height. Some people thought the photo was due to double exposure, but photographic experts have concluded that the image is not the result of double exposure. So what was it, and why was it in a church? No one truly knows, but it's extremely frightening. What does it look like to you? Let me know in the comments. Number 2. Mystery Guest. On January 22nd, 1985, the Coventry Freeman organization and their guests stood in prayer during a dinner event. All the guests are still, and as it was a dark room, the photographer probably thought it would be the perfect time to allow for a longer than usual exposure to get enough light into the picture. Makes sense. Now, nothing was out of the ordinary at the time, but as people started to see the print of the picture, a mystery surfaced. Who was the robed figure standing near the end of one of the tables? No one had dressed up for the event, and no one remembers anyone standing there as they stood for prayer. The figure also seems to be taking part in the prayer, head slightly bowed, hands clasped in front. St. Mary's, Coventry, Warwickshire is where the event was hosted. It has many legends of ghosts and paranormal activity, but I wonder why this being decided to join in prayer. It just gives me bad vibes, like evil lurks within it. And coming in at number 1 is the Young Boy. One of the most famous haunted houses in the United States is the Dutch Colonial House at 112 Ocean Avenue in Amityville, New York. The haunting stems from the night of November 13th, 1974, when 23-year-old Ronald Defoe ended the lives of all 6 members of his family. He was then arrested, convicted, and given 6 concurrent life sentences. In December of 1975, George and Kathy Lutz, along with their 3 children, moved into the house and claimed that spooky things were happening. For example, George would wake up at 3:15 every morning, which was the approximate time that Ronald committed his crimes. Kathy said she would feel a ghostly presence and be embraced by it. All of this and more caused the family to flee in fear after only staying in the house for 28 days, and honestly, I don't blame them. Due to this, demonologists Ed and Lorraine Warren visited the house and set up time-lapse infrared cameras and caught this photo. The picture wasn't made public until 3 years later when George Lutz appeared on the Merv Griffith Show in 1979. Believers of the haunting think that the picture is the ghost of the youngest Defoe son, John Matthew, who was 9 at the time. Others believed it's a staged photo, but despite its controversy, this picture is one of the most frightening images from the Amityville horror.
Number 5. the Amityville photo. This photo was taken inside the Amityville house back in 1976. It appears to be a young boy with glowing white eyes. He's pretty hard to miss there. See him? Right there. Yeah, you got it. Nice. Good eye. At first, I thought this was from a horror movie that I missed, you know? Like, it looks so obviously fake or set up in some way until you start to read up on the details. This photo was taken with automatic cameras equipped with infrared, so this young lad here probably wasn't expecting a selfie. Photographer Gene Campbell took this photo in 1976, and Gene at the time was working with paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren. So that's how you know this bit of history here is real, to some degree. The photo was revealed 3 years after it was taken on the Merv Griffin show, and many believe this is the ghost of the young John DeFeo, one of the boys who lived there in 1974. Number 4, the specter of Newby Church. From all the way back in 1963, this photo has been passed around from time to time. We've mentioned it on this channel before. It's pretty good. It's one of the most convincing, if you ask me, considering its date. Is this the demon of General Grievous from Star Wars? This guy's, what is going on here? He's haunting, very tall. Looks like he has 4 lightsabers. Reverend K.F. Lord took this photo in England at the Newby Church, and Lord ensures us that this photo is 100% real. Would anybody named Lord lie to us? You know? I'm just saying. I think not. The photo looks too good to be true, I'll admit. I mean, this entity is literally facing the camera, you know, so I get it. The figure appears to stand on the first step of the altar, yet somehow it's still taller than the altar. Super Tall Demons from 1963. This was almost number 1. Almost. You'll see. Number 3, a helping hand. This photo is pretty old, hence convincing. This time the photographer may or may not have caught a floating spirit hands. Apparently they're a thing. Awesome. I'll show you the photo, you let me know if you see it at first. Take a good look. Anything sticking out? Any little creepy hands crawling around? No? This photo is a group of women who worked in a linen factory. The lady on the far right appears she has an extra hand there, resting on her shoulder. At a weird angle too. Maybe she was scratching her back and then it was like, hey, cheese. You know? No, it's impossible. I did the math. I tried. There's no way. I'm a lanky guy. I tried this in the office. There's no way. This is definitely a demon hand. It looks curled almost, the hand. Like, I don't want to roast somebody's hand and say it looks demonic. It's just the fact that we can see the open space next to the right of the lady in the photo and there's nobody standing there. That's what makes this convincing. I'm not like, oh, it's a skinny, veiny hand. That's got to be a ghost. Some guy's like, thanks, man. What? No, there's no one standing there. That's the whole point. This reminds me of the movie Idle Hands. This gives me the creeps. That movie scared me growing up. I don't like it. Phantom hands? No thank you. Unless you're hitting that thumbs up there shall be no phantom hands in my premise. Number 2, ancient Egyptian demon paintings. Yes, I said paintings, okay? Hear me out. This list is full of the most convincing paranormal photos on the internet, but I had to toss in a little treat, a little historical treat. Demons have been putting fear into the minds of ancient Egyptians even 4,000 years ago. Yeah, demonology is not a new thing. It's not like horror movies came out and it's like, oh, there's demons now. Old, really old. Back in 2016, Whaley House, who specializes in ancient religious texts, found the image of not 1, but 2 demons. They found them painted on 2 Middle Kingdom coffins. The demon represented here is the demon Ikinti. It's represented as a large bird with a cat's head, a black cat's head. This evidence was presented at the International Conference on Ancient Egyptian Demonology over at Swansea University in the United Kingdom. Am I attending the wrong meetings in life? I need to go check out some ancient Egyptian demonology conferences. That sounds like a great time. What? Another example of demons being present in ancient Egyptian days was the image of Amut. Amut is a female demon whose body was part hippo, part crocodile, and part lion. Hard to miss. And finally, coming in at number 1, the Manila Demon. No, I didn't say vanilla demon. That sounds delicious. This is much scarier. This is one of my biggest fears in life, okay? To go on a trip, take a bunch of photos with a wind-up camera, that would be the worst. Come back and then find something haunting that I missed in real life in the photos, right? That's like every horror movie, it's the worst. That's exactly what happened when 2 friends posed for a photo together in the Philippines. This was back in 2000. At the time, they didn't feel anybody grab their arm, which I fully believe because there's no reaction in this photo. Also, if somebody was that close, somebody they didn't know, there's no chance they would sneak into the frame that quickly. Also, is this demon Dobby the house elf? What? This is not a haunting look, but it's definitely a look. It looks like a bridge troll with tiny hands. But either way, I'm all set. Guys, those are the top 10 terrifying photos that prove demons are living among us. If you want a part 2, I'll gladly get scared and go do the research for you. I've been your host, Taylor McWaters, and we'll see you next time on Most Amazing Top 10. Bye.